Checkmate.
Hello, I'm Shelby Eckardt.
And I'm Mayra Alarcon.
And we're going to show you some basic supplies that you can use for bookbinding.
Today we'll be creating an accordion envelope book.
So we can start off with some of the supplies that you'll need. Some basic cutting supplies that you can use are scissors and a box cutter, and sometimes you can use an X-Acto blade for more precise slices too. You'll also need a bone folder to fold your paper and get good creases. And then you will use paste on your paper, and if you'd like to add a cover to your book, some paste that you can use is Noir paste, and then there's also Yes paste, which has been used often. You can also find tutorials on how to make your own paste, and they're pretty simple to follow. To apply the paste, you'll just use a simple thick brush. And then you can also use rulers or just simple straight edges to cut your paper or help you fold your paper. For the cover, you'll need binder's board. It comes in a large pack of 6 sheets, and when you find it, it'll be a size like this. It's a larger size board that you can cut down. And then you can cut it any way you'd like to. You can cut it into a square shape or even a circular shape if you'd like a circular cover. And you need to use a box cutter to cut it because it's a very thick board. It's actually about 3 layers of board glued together.
Some supplies you'll need will be a regular 11 by 17 rectangular paper, a bone folder, and in order to get a almost perfect square, you need to fold the rectangular diagonal from one corner to the other, and use your bone folder to crease the paper like this, and then you just cut the leftover. Follow the line when you cut, and you should get here, and then you just fold all the corners to the center, and use your bone folder to crease, and this will reinforce the marks in the paper. And it should look like this. And you can be able to flip it just from one side. The other side is just plain. Then you fold it inward, and they should be flapping, just 2. And here you created the pockets, and then you just glue them together with as many as you want.
This book is 8.5 by 4 on its flat side. So I have measured out 8.5 by 4 on this piece of book board. And you can use just a regular straight edge and line it up with your markings, or you can use a ruler. And when cutting it, you'll use just a simple box cutter and line up your ruler with the edge. And then since this board is so thick, you'll have to score your cut a few times. So you'll cut it a few times until you can cut all the way through the book board. So when you're finished scoring and cutting all of your sides, you'll have a piece of board that is roughly about the same size as your book that you have created. Then you will need a piece of paper, And you can cut it down to give yourself about 1 inch of space around the entire edge of the board. When you are gluing this onto your board, you can use your simple paste or paste that you've created and then a brush. And when you are gluing it on to the board, you just need a little bit of glue, but you need to cover the entire space. And you'll start in the center of the board and work your way out so that you get an even spread. And you'll want to cover the entire surface. Make sure you have an even amount of glue over the entire board so that you don't get too many bubbles or spaces that are uneven. Then you can lay the book flat over the paper, and it doesn't need to line up perfectly within the paper. And then you'll just have to press it down. And one option to make sure that it's very flat would be to lay it within or in between books or bricks to make sure that it stays flat as it dries. To apply or to wrap the paper around the board, you will want to fold the paper a bit and make sure it's very flush with the side of the board so that you don't have any gaps between the paper and the side of the board. So you can do this folding a little bit before you add any glue so that you have some good folds in your paper so that you know where it needs to roll over the board. And before you add any glue, you'll want to cut some corners, so you have about a 90-degree slice on the corner so that you can wrap the paper without having this ugly corner here. You can just use a straight edge, it doesn't have to be perfect. Line it up and just cut a corner off of the paper so that it looks like this, so that it's easier to wrap and hide some of that paper when you're wrapping the paper around. So now that all 4 of your corners look like this, you can actually start gluing the paper around the board. And again, you'll want to be sure that you have an even amount of paste around the entire piece of paper without using too much paste because it can seep out. And I would do one edge at a time. And you can even use a bone folder to help yourself wrap this paper around the board without any air pockets. Just make sure that you rub out all the air bubbles with your bone folder. And it's easier to start or to keep going with the opposite side rather than a side right next to it because you can wrap the paper a little bit easier at the end. You'll want to be sure that you use your bone folder to crease them in to the side of the book so that they're glued to the side and they're not popping up. now that these corners are folded in like this and creased against the side of the board, you'll want to be sure that you get enough glue on those edges that they don't pop up on the inside of your book. If you have any excess glue that squeezes out, you can just rub it off, but make sure that you do so that it doesn't dry there. And there's a cover. And you can even put a small piece of paper in here as a piece of lining so that you don't see this book board and it looks like a nice finished board cover. And once this is dry and has been laying flat for a while, you can just glue it to the top of this book that we've made. So if this is the top, you can glue it down, and then it has a cover. So that is how you create an accordion envelope book. And we would like to see how you can create your own. If you take a picture of it, you can upload it to grandview.edu and it will be displayed online.